Hi everybody, we're here with our friends, and this is David, and I'm Christina. So we just wanted to talk about, just introduce ourselves. We met in Redding, California, at Bethel Church, and now David lives in Kentucky with me, his wife.
I sure do.
So anyways, we want to introduce you to our friends, Jeff and Tina. Hi.
Hi.
And Trish and Bill.
Hello. I'm Trish. He's Bill.
Let's talk about this book, Keep Your Love On. This book, it's about connection, communication, and boundaries. And it was written by a man named Danny Silk. He's a pastor we know from Bethel, and he is my personal favorite in Redding because he is all about healthy relationships and connection and just empowerment. And it's stuff that I really needed. And I'm still growing and learning in it. So this book, it's about love. It's about loving yourself and others well, and building lasting connections. Love's not always easy. It's actually pretty hard a lot of the time, but it's worth it. It's worth the fight.
Amen.
Seriously.
And love's really not what most of us think it is growing up. Like, a lot of people have ideas that they've gotten from movies or things that have happened to them in childhood, and they start living out of those beliefs. Like, a common one is women are like, I'm going to meet Prince Charming. He's going to love me so well. He's never going to hurt me. It's going to be perfect. We're going to live happily ever after. And those expectations set us up for a lot of pain and failed relationships, too. So, anyways, this book, it talks a lot about that kind of stuff and how we can learn to love better and have lasting relationships.
Yeah. You all tell me about where you met, how long you've been married, all that.
So we have been married. February 26th of this year will be 39 years.
Oh, wow. Great.
Awesome.
We met at a supermarket that no longer exists back in Pennsylvania in high school. I was already working there as I bagged groceries, which once upon a time used to happen in grocery stores.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
it still does here. So.
It doesn't.
So.
And then she walks in the one day and she's applying for a job.
Look at that.
I looked across and I saw her, and honestly, immediately I knew that one day I would marry her.
Did you hear a heart?
No, I did
No.
not hear her heart. As a matter of fact, Jesus wasn't even in my life at the time, but I knew.
Well, not that you knew.
Not that I knew. I wasn't aware of, and I hadn't said yes, but I knew that one day I was going to marry her.
So what did you think about him when you saw him? Hurry up and get my groceries.
Actually, I was pretty shy in regards to like communicating how
True.
I was feeling. I have a lot of things inside, but when I met him, there was just something about him that I knew I wanted to get to know more, and so in the awkward ways of that occurring because of not being so forward in addressing him, it was like he was getting ready to leave. He was actually getting ready to go to college, and one of the girls that I worked with coming back, and she knew he had an interest for me.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of testing the waters to see where I was at, and she goes, well, he's leaving. And I said, he is. She goes, yeah, why don't you go talk to him? And I said, well, I don't know. And she goes, well, you should go talk to him. So I went over and I gave him a hug, and I said, I hear you're leaving, and I said, I just want to give you a hug and tell you that I'm going to really miss you and not getting to see you. But then it was like, he said, well, you will see me because we're going to go out. I mean, he was very bold.
Really?
Yes. We're gonna go out.
I had a lot to learn.
and I'm there like, oh, we are? and then so we finally I could keep you all day with the obstacles that came up with regards to us being able to go out. But we finally went out. And he was the one. He was the one that God had chosen before I even knew the Lord. And we have grown together in so many
Seriously.
ways where this book is applicable to our communication coming in a better place.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't know how to communicate in regards to expressing
neither of us
myself.
really did.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. Both of our backgrounds were definitely speak to a broken down communication.
It's interesting that you said that you met, he was working and you came in to apply for a job. I was working in a restaurant and he came in to apply for a job.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
About at least 39 years ago. We've been
Oh, wow.
married 37 years. We
Yeah.
went out for a couple years, so it's been about 39 or 40 years. And I liked him right away. He didn't care for me very much because, don't tell me, I know the truth about things. You told me that I reminded you of your old girlfriend. You better not lie. But, I would flirt with him. He was cooking in the back, and I would flirt with him, and he was quiet and introverted. God has got the most cosmic joke on me. I am not an introvert. Yet, most everybody in my life is. So it's like a cosmic joke. God's like, you need to learn how to do the introvert people. And so here I am. But I asked you to teach me how to drive your Jeep, didn't I? He drove a Jeep, which I knew
Yeah,
was
you were
cool.
thinking about buying one.
I was.
There was one up the road she was wanting to buy, so.
Yeah, and my stepdad went on the test drive with me, and it smoked, and he wouldn't let me buy it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Never did get the Jeep, but I got him, and he had a Jeep.
It all worked out.
You got two
Double blessing.
Well, as far as this book is concerned, I'm only just now, I've read the first section and I've watched some videos on YouTube. And Christina was talking about the fact that there are 3 sections. I find it easier to understand because of that. They've got it broken down into 3 easy sections, and those are communication, connection, and boundaries, not exactly in that order. So, yay. What do you want to start with talking about?
I would like to talk about is being powerful.
I loved that part of the book.
It's so good. It's so good. I felt powerless all the time. I didn't know I felt that way. One of the most important things about being powerful is being self-aware.
Yeah.
You know, like if you don't know what's going on inside of you and you don't know how to express yourself with that and get that need met in a good way, you're going to try to manage everyone and everything around you. You're going to get controlling and hateful and, go to things that aren't good. I got to manage everyone so I'll feel okay. So I'm okay.
That's
good. Just learning to know what's going on inside yourself and be able to express it. You're able to connect with someone, like bringing trust in where you're able to say, okay, I'm going to trust this person with how I'm feeling and letting them know that. And that becomes a me thing instead of me trying to tell someone what they need to do in order for me to feel better.
So what do you think a powerful person is? What's the definition of a powerful person? That's one of the things that intrigued me the most about this book.
Fine.
So like a few things for a powerful person is I'm responsible for the things of how I'm feeling, what I do, and no one controls how I feel. So saying, oh, this person made me angry, when in reality you get to choose if you're going to be angry because of what that person's done. That's why there's communication.
Say that again. I missed part of the...
So like a powerful person is about, this person made me angry. Well, a powerful person will say, well, this person's not in charge of me, I'm in charge of me.
Yeah.
I decide if I'm going to be angry for what this person did.
There you go. That's what I was wanting to catch.
Yes.
There you go.
That's really good.
That is
Yeah.
good.
So you are responsible for your own emotion of anger.
Yes.
Regardless of what the other people around you are doing.
Okay. Yeah. How am I going to react
Yeah.
to that
Right.
thing? Yeah. That's good.
Right. It's I would get so like if they would do something that would upset me, I would get like so emotional about it and like really upset, and it would just ruin my day or week, whatever. And for me, being more aware of myself and powerful, I'm like, well, okay, I'm not going to get on that roller coaster with you. That emotional thing, I'm going to manage myself. And so when you're being powerful, you manage yourself and you're like, I'm going to be me and you're going to be you. And there's freedom. There's freedom in this relationship. You know?
Right. Because how I feel about what you said may not be a flaw with you. It could be a flaw with a flaw may not be the right word, but it may be the discomfort may be coming from somewhere inside of me. Maybe when I was a child and I was 7 years old, my mom said, "You're this." Well, what you just said to me made me feel like that.
Yeah.
And so you've just basically, without saying it, said, "I'm that." You know, you're not, you're dumb. So this is not, my mother never did this. My mother will probably watch this, so I'm going to make sure my mom did not say this to me. But so if when you're 6 or 7 years old and your mother says, well, you're just stupid.
Right.
You just never, you're not intelligent, you're not going to do anything. Well, if he says something to me that he may not be saying I'm stupid, but if he says something to me like, you just don't get it. Well, that he might just be saying you don't get the point I'm trying to make. My mind, my heart, my emotions says, well, he just told me that I'm stupid.
Right.
He thinks I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that just puts a nail in the coffin of my emotions, you know.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying about that. It's just kind of like we have to control ourselves. And that's what I was looking at. That's my favorite thing he says in that section. He says, powerful people do not try to control other people. They know that it doesn't work
Right.
and that it's not their job. Their job is to control themselves.
Themselves.
A full-time job doing that.
I
Yeah.
also love how he said that power, because he gives 3 different equations. I love how he said powerful person plus powerful person equals free.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Because the powerful person is not trying to control everything. And,
Right.
you know, my idea, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to give me all my words because I can't think of any of them. You know, my page of instructions and rules about how life is going to be okay, what you just said to me might not fit in that.
Right.
That's not my definition of a happy marriage.
Yeah.
You know, where his definition might be, it is my definition of a happy marriage. We need to be open. I need to tell you, you know, that I wasn't ready to receive it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, what I heard you saying there was in regards to something being triggered, like something that
Yeah.
occurred from in the past, and it became that made an impact, and therefore when it's the action speaks that, or words touch on that, it becomes that triggers that, and that's actually the filtering that you're processing that moment in instead of what is actually taking place, and then taking that empowerment and say, well, you know what, I'm not going to take that for face value, what's being done, because I know you. And that's one of the things we always say. We look for the heart of, you know,
That's
when we're
good.
communicating, that we will I look for the Jesus in him, he looks for the Jesus in me. And that way we don't take at the moment for
Right.
face value what was done or said.
Yeah.
It's like, I know your heart, you didn't mean it the way that I received it, so it's an opportunity to reprocess it and say, I think we just most recently did this, because I said, the action was telling me this, I know different, because his response was that it wasn't my heart to do something like that. See, he was given that opportunity to express that, because we took it to a place of communicating
Yep.
with it,
Yep.
and then it was like, oh, I can see where that came from, you know, and now I'm going to choose to respond differently, because I know that it wasn't me receiving that from you, it was from receiving within me in that place where it became something that it wasn't.
And so because she chose to be a powerful person and
Yeah.
express it in a way that I could receive it and not be responsible for the way I receive it, I was able to see what she was talking about and say, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. And can you please forgive me? And in the future, I'll make sure not to do that anymore. You know, it gave me that opportunity. And so what did that do? What did that conflict do? It brought us closer together.
And in the moment, I was even able to be make light of it instead of like,
It's true.
what are you
It
doing?
can
Joyce?"
become
Yes.
a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really can become a joke. It's
Yes.
like, I know that you're not trying to drive me to an early grave by leaving your dishes laying around the house. And I know that you told me that you weren't going to do it anymore, and you have not followed through with that yet. But I choose to realize that you're wonderful, and it's not your intention.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've actually talked about this. You know, I think that, you know, what Scripture says that the enemy is the accuser of the brethren. Not only does he accuse us before God, he accuses us to each
Before
other.
each other.
And somehow, you know, the devil tries to twist everything that you say and everything you do to where what she says to me is, it's like you were saying, what she says to me, that the intention she said, I hear it. It's like, no, I heard you say this. I did not say that. You know, and it's so weird that sometimes you actually think you heard something that you they didn't say, almost, they didn't say it at all, but somehow you hear it different, and there's that twisting.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's the enemy doing that.
It's what Tina was saying, it's those triggers that were already
Exactly.
there. Somebody
Exactly.
says this one thing to you, but to you, it says all these other things
Right,
that were
right,
not really
right,
there.
right, exactly.
I love how Danny addressed that too, because he says, two powerful people recognize that when their connection's broken, conflict, they don't try to process through the problem or the challenge. Now, one of them takes a break so that they can decompress and come back once they've decompressed, so that they can actually hear what was said.
Yeah.
And now they can actually process through that,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
and that conflict doesn't cause separation because they choose to draw towards
That's
each
the whole
other.
keeping your love on thing.
Yeah, I really love, and it started, the boundaries and the processing conflict kind of blur for me a little bit, but I love the part that he talks about triangulation, where there's a victim, and therefore they have to have a bad guy, and they look to hire the rescuer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the word he used. They literally have to have a bad guy, and they hire the rescuer, and they do that so that their world can be right, because it's clearly not their fault. And if we do that, whether where I've seen it most recently is in a work relationship, and as we were rewatching this last night, I was like, oh snap, that explains everything. And I was the rescuer, and it's like, oh my gosh, I allowed myself to become the rescuer. So as a powerful person, I can now step out of that role
Yeah.
and go back to the person that is that is displaying. They're not a victim, because Jesus doesn't say they're a victim,
Right.
but that is displaying in the moment that victim mentality, and just say, oh, you know what? Oh, I can pray for you, or instead of stepping in to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you were saying a little while ago, Christina, that was really powerful when you said, what you said made me feel this way. And I see that you're having a moment of struggle, but I'm just not going to be a party to it. I love you. My love stays on for you, but I'm going to have to step aside while you take a minute and deal with what you're going through, and then we'll reconvene
Right.
when the adrenaline goes down, just like
Exactly.
David said, and then we can really talk about this for
And
real.
And it wasn't always that way. I mean, we still struggle, like he uses the example in the book, a T-Rex person and a goat person. And like, it's like where their communication styles where, it goes in with the victim, the rescuer, and the bad guy and stuff where, say David would get really angry and say something rude, and then I'm like the victim. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm all upset, but I'm like, okay, like being powerful, I was able to step out of that too and be like, okay, I'm gonna be assertive, and I'm not gonna take this as like, oh, how could you, and and realize, okay, this is going on. So usually, what do they say, that a goat and a T-Rex end up together?
Yeah, because the T-Rex says, I'm important, but the other person's not important. And then the goat says, I'm not important, the other person's important.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the T-Rex and the victim. When those two, or the passive person, those two connect the most because they both agree on the same thing. The
There's
goat doesn't
agreement.
matter, the T-Rex matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've been having fun just stepping out of that and trying to, and this stuff, like, I mean, it takes practice, and
It does.
the roles can be interchangeable.
That's what I was going to
Right.
say.
Yes.
At any given time, we might switch out being the T-Rex and the goat.
Yep.
The scary thing about that whole analogy is one of us is going to get eaten up in this process. One of us is going to be a bloody mess on the floor.
I'll tell you a little thing, like yesterday, we were shopping for some food when we're going to the car. I was like, Eric, I'll get the groceries in. You get Maverick in. She's like, no, you get Maverick in. I'm going to get the groceries in. I was like, yes, ma'am.
So you chose your That's good stuff. I like it that he mentioned the 5 love languages too.
Yes.
He talked a lot about those. Do you all know what your love languages are?
Mine's touch and quality time.
Mine used to be touch and quality time. Now I still am quality time, but I realize that acts of service is like my biggest.
Well, you've got a small child too. And that's a big deal because you're tired.
Yeah.
When you're tired, it says something to you when somebody's willing to step up and clean the toilet. What about you all?
I would say mine is quality time. And what would you say my second one is? You just told me that earlier.
You don't know your
Well, you're the one who has to speak it.
gift.
One of the things about the gifts, though, is that it's not about the expense. It's not
Right,
about what
right.
kind of gift it really is. It's about the care that goes into choosing something
The
for you.
thoughtfulness.
It's the
Yes.
thoughtfulness thing, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What about you?
So mine is quality time and physical touch. And Danny even addressed that. He said one of his is definitely physical touch. He says he absolutely loves when his wife sits down beside him on the couch and she puts her leg close to his leg. He says it just does something to me. So as we were as we were rewatching that, she reached over and put her leg on mine. So it has the same effect for me as it does because there's something powerful that happens when Tina recognizes or acknowledges something that I intentionally did for her, for our family, because the kids are grown and out of the house. So our family is now the two of us. So when I do whatever it is that I, even if it's a sacrifice, I'm exhausted, I come home, something needs taken care of, and I take care of it, and then she acknowledges it, it just does something powerful to my heart. It's like that heart in The Grinch That Stole Christmas. You know, the heart all of a sudden goes.
Well, have you all read that book, Love and Respect?
You have not. I know the book you mean.
This is an excellent book. It's from Scripture. I wish I'd written it down, but it talks about the fact that the wife needs the husband to love her and accept her for who she is all the time. And because we want that unconditional love, we want him to always think we're pretty even when we're not. But the respect and the honor thing is man was created to require that,
Yep.
you know, and so that's powerful. You know, the men are like, well, you already know that. I married you. I chose you. You were the one I picked. So you already know that I think you're the awesome one, you know. But women don't know that. And there's all these voices from our childhood saying, you're ugly, you're fat, you're stupid, you're inconsequential, you're obnoxious,
Right.
you didn't wear the right thing, you didn't choose the right thing. And so we've got all these little stupid things. But as we become more of a powerful person, we get
Yeah.
rid of it, you know. One thing that I find really interesting, because I know my husband, is that all of the men, physical touch, including the author of this book, physical touch is a thing. And we can't talk about that without skimming over the subject of sexual relationships and the touch that's involved there, because we've had some conversations about this in the past, and the fact that that is not the physical touch. It's not that that's not desired, because obviously it is. It's required. That connection is required, but the physical touch that a person whose love language is physical touch, it's not about that. It's about that connection. It's about you matter to me.
Yep.
And you're my person, and I'm your person, and we're together.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Right, because sex is just a bonus when it comes to that kind of stuff. Physical touch is all about that. Holding a hand, rub my hair,
Yep.
you know, come snuggle with me, you know.
Yep.
That's my biggest thing, because growing up, you know, I was a mama's boy, and I had, you know, two other
Still
brothers
are.
and sisters. And let's feed added to his grip so she can see this. But, like, you know, she'd rub her hair all the time. My Oma, you know, my grandmother, she'd do the same thing. She'd just rub her hair. And so growing up, that was our connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
That was comfort.
It is comfort.
Yeah, yeah.
And it brings us closer to one another.
Were you saying earlier about the fact that when trust was there, it was open, now communication can actually happen, but without it, I think that's what you were telling me earlier.
So I feel like God was putting this in my heart, and it was just something that's happened recently between us. So, you know, I used to struggle a lot with, like, pornography and masturbation, that kind of stuff. And, you know, through a lot of pain, I would hide and run away. You know, I wouldn't tell anybody about it because fear
Guilt.
said if I told someone, I'm going to be punished.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm going to be looked down and all stuff.
yeah.
Well, through years and years of getting better from it, even in marriage, I'd still struggle. And through a lot of pain, you know, when it happened, she looked me around the eyes and she said, well, did this happen? And I said, you know, in our marriage, I'm going to be honest and not lie.
Yeah.
And so I told her the truth. Well, instead of what used to happen, which was, how could you, this, that,
I
that,
was heartbroken.
Guilt,
you know,
yeah.
guilt. She was like, don't worry, I love you.
Aw,
And I'm still
yeah.
here for you. And once she did that, all of a sudden this switch flipped inside me
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
said,
good.
I can be honest with her and tell her even before
Yeah, it's
it happens.
good.
Yeah.
And honestly, now I feel safe enough to tell her that
Yeah.
this is, you know, this is going on because she's my safe place now, because that trust in her that she's going to be a nice, safe place for me has now been created.
And
So
it
now
took
I
a
can
lot
go
of
with her.
vulnerability for you to be willing to be transparent about that and say, look, I'm struggling in this area. You got to help me. You know.
And so on the trust cycle, I needed a safe place.
Yeah.
And that's something she gave to me.
Yeah.
You did awesome.
Yeah.
I think that just says she loves you.
Yeah.
For sure.
No,
And it's hard to react in a good way when somebody reveals something like that to you.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
had experiences in our marriage that, you know, we've revealed things to each other that punches you in the gut. And it's just like it kills you. Emotionally, it's like a stab wound. But it's the whole keep your love on concept. It's
yeah.
like, I love you.
Yeah.
We're going to get through this. But you can't always say it right away. You know, we experienced that. When I needed to be comforting to him and I needed to be accepting to him, I wasn't able to right away because it was such a shock to me, you know, that I was just like, it took me a day or two to, what's the word? I'm still coming to you with what's the word. What are the words? Tell me all my words. I had to process it. That's the word I'm looking for. I really had to process what he had just told me because it answered so many questions in all the years we've been together. And it was almost just like, it's almost like there was another person in our marriage that we kicked out that day. You know what I mean? So, you know, I wish I could have been awesome like Christina and just said, I love you, everything's fine, we're gonna be okay, but, you know, we're strong, we strongly, you know, because you'd have to turn in your man card. I know you're not automatically going to say, hey, get marriage counseling, guys. But it changed our marriage. Marriage counseling changed
my
our
goodness.
marriage. We
Same
wouldn't be
for us.
together today if it wasn't
Same
for
for
marriage
us.
counseling.
Right.
Yeah.
Same for us.
We got to give God all praise, honor, and
Absolutely.
glory because, like you said, I would have loved to responded in that I didn't know what love was.
Yeah.
I thought I did.
What do I do
But
with
it
this?
wasn't until Christ that I really learned what love was.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that's what brought my heart to a place that when things occurred, I could love before
Yeah.
I became angry or in that moment thinking of myself instead of putting myself in
That's
a
a good
place
point.
where I could see him and where he was at and what he needed. So, yeah, we were married 17 years without
That's a
the
really
Lord.
good
And
point.
a lot of stuff had developed that he had to unravel for us. And
We had to
Take
learn
us
how
in a
to
new place.
we had to learn how to serve each other.
yeah. Yeah.
That's really good because to serve, you got to put yourself aside a little bit, right?
You do.
You
Yes.
know? And of course, the scripture says we love because he first loved us.
Yeah.
Yes.
If he hadn't given us the example of how to love, you know, we wouldn't be loving on each other at all.
And if you take all of this that we just literally just talked about and put it in a work setting, you have to do the same thing there. It's not thought of in a work setting as much, but if you get into a conflict with whether it's your boss or somebody that a coworker or whatever, just to stop for a minute, choose to be the powerful person and see that person for who they really are instead of what's coming out of them in the moment, and then being able to walk away even in that and get yourself to the adrenaline to come down so that you can get back to them and process in a good way. And if you happen to be a leader in the work environment, to set up a work environment that is conducive to being as transparent as is healthy at work, and not being afraid to say you're sorry if you just made a mistake, so that you can teach your other coworkers, your people that work for you, without even using the word powerful person and powerless person. Choose to be that powerful person, so that you as a leader are a safe place for them to bring whatever's going on at work and help them process through it
That's
to get to a
good.
good place.
Yes.
And I like that because in society, they'll say things like, you want to be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. Well, there's competition in that.
Yeah.
It's not about being the bigger person. You can't
Absolutely
compete with
not.
your spouse. One of the things that he said, I can't remember if this was in the book or if I saw him saying it on one of the YouTube videos, was he was talking about the fact that, and you were amening this in the car, I think it was the video we were listening to, because he was saying, I know that we had the vows of when you get married, the two become one. And
Right.
and it's true, the two do become one, but there's two distinct personalities in this
Yes.
relationship. And the Holy Spirit revealed to me years ago, as we were struggling through some marriage things, that there is me, there is him, and there is us.
Yeah.
So besides the Holy Spirit and God being in our marriage, we got three of us in here, you know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and one thing that I think about is a lot of I know people who have relationships where they just smother each other with, controlling and jealousy
Like
and all
on
that
the
stuff.
phone, love you.
Yeah,
That drives him crazy.
You feel like you have, when people are getting into a routine, it almost doesn't mean anything when you hear, I love you, I love you, I love you, but it just, I don't know, it just kind of loses, and I'm sorry if somebody listening to this does it all the time, but it I don't know,
Yeah.
it just, when I hear people do that, sometimes I just think
Love you, bye.
it almost doesn't mean anything. But I see people just controlling each other, and we have always given each other space.
Yeah.
And we
It's been such a blessing.
we trust each other that we know we're, if I'm going fishing or I'm going to, do whatever, and she's, there's times when she'll say, hey, I just need to go see a movie by myself. I used
to do that.
I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going to go watch a movie or whatever, or I'll just go fishing. Just a couple weeks ago, I just went to Florida by myself, went on a fishing trip. But we give each other, space, and then we come back together as a couple.
And then you got something to talk about.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So I feel like that's something that I treasure that we have, that we're
Yeah.
always giving each other, our space.
Yeah.
And so backing up just a little bit, when you guys were talking about, just what you feel like being together. Like there's times when I'm ready to go to bed. And it's nothing sexual whatsoever, but I like to have her with me in the bed when I'm
Yeah.
going to sleep. It's just
He
that
does.
comfort of her being there.
Me too.
But she likes to. She's a night person, and I'm a morning person. So yeah. So there's so
We
many.
closed many a restaurant down, haven't we?
So there's so many couples like that. But she will just want to sit in the living room and watch TV because she needs the peace and quiet from the day.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time going to sleep because I'm like, why don't
when I do
you
that.
come in here and watch TV? Bring the iPad or something, and just be here with me. That's all I want. Just that you're here.
And the bottom line truth in that is, I'm already in the chair with a blanket on, and I don't want to get up. This blanket is really soft.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I do have to respect that, and I do have to, keep smacking myself a little bit and say, he is laying in there right now trying to go to sleep. Go! And so, yeah.
That's good though. You're being you're adjusting yourself to love your husband in the way
Yeah.
he needs that he's expressed to you.
Yeah.